Alright guys, this video was requested from the people on Patreon. If you want to join our exclusive Dynasty chat, if you want to talk to me on a daily basis, any fantasy advice that you want, if you want to support the show with a monthly donation, make sure you go down, join the Patreon, support the show, make sure we continue to get daily videos out on the channel, and big thank you to everyone who has decided to support the show recently. Have a lot of new people on there. Really excited. Really enjoy talking to y'all on a daily basis. But let's get into the video, and we're going to be talking about Teddy Bridgewater signing with the Carolina Panthers, what this does for his dynasty value, more importantly, what this does for the dynasty value of the pass catchers on the Carolina Panthers. So let's get into the contract for a little bit, because I think that's very important whenever we're talking about these new starting quarterbacks, to see what kind of commitment these teams have to them, especially if it's a longer term deal. So looking at the details of this contract, it's very, very basic, kind of cheap for a starting quarterback. $24 million in 2020, $21 million in 2021, and technically it is a 3-year contract, but I'm not really looking at the money in 2022 just because there's only $5 million worth of dead cap. So my prediction right now is Teddy Bridgewater is going to play 2 seasons in Carolina, and most likely they're going to be looking to move on from him in 2021 unless he exceeds expectations. Which, let's look at his 2019 season, because we know the story of Teddy Bridgewater. Super, super fun guy to root for. Comes in from Louisville, goes to the Minnesota Vikings, and is a very good quarterback his first 2 years in the league. A lot of people are very excited about him and the future of the Minnesota Vikings, and he has a devastating knee injury. It was one of the worst injuries we've seen in the NFL in a very long time, and most people predicted that he would never play football again. I mean, he was almost able to never walk again. Yet here he is, long recovery, really, really inspirational, and a guy that we really want to root for. But can't really do much to look back that far in his career. I don't think it can really help us. So we're going to be working with a very short sample size of what he did lately, and that is in 2019. So in 2019, with Drew Brees down, Teddy Bridgewater actually led the Saints to a 5-0 record with almost a 68% completion percentage and almost 1,400 passing yards. Now, the most important thing here was he threw 9 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So what this tells us about Teddy Bridgewater is he's a quarterback that's going to be very smart with the ball, yet he's going to be kind of the opposite of Jameis Winston, where because how much he cares about not turning the ball over and how he wants to win his team games over getting an insane amount of passing yards, I don't know if we necessarily like him for fantasy. We're going to dive in a little deeper, look at some more advanced analytics to see exactly how he's going to correlate with the pass catchers on the team. But with the overall, this isn't a quarterback that you want throwing the ball to on your pass. Okay, guys. This is not a quarterback that you want throwing the ball to your pass catchers, especially if you have them on your dynasty teams. And I really haven't heard a lot of dynasty analysis from this. I kind of feel like people are glossing it over, maybe just because it's really hard to kind of predict what's going to happen with such a small sample size for Teddy Bridgewater. But we're going to try our best to get into it. We're going to try our best to look at this sample size, try to identify what kind of player Teddy Bridgewater is and what he's going to do for these pass catching options. Now, the most important thing, we've done this is the 3rd video in a row. Whenever we're trying to identify these new quarterback and wide receiver pairings, we want to try to prototype what kind of player they are, where the quarterback's looking to throw the ball on the field, and where the wide receivers are running their routes on the field. Because we know that today's NFL, not all wide receivers are the same. You have your different roles, you have your different specialists, you have your slot wide receiver, you have your X wide receiver, and you have your field stretcher. Now, it's very important to look at the quarterback and try to identify where they're going to want to force feed targets to, and if they are aggressive getting the ball down the field. That way we can look at which type of wide receiver is going to be getting the targets. It's the best thing we can do. I don't see a lot of people doing it, but there have been studies done to show that this is highly correlates year over year. So let's look at Teddy Bridgewater's intended air yards per attempt. I know I've been talking about this lately. But if you don't know what air yards are, it's essentially how far down the field the quarterback is throwing the ball to his wide receiver. So if you have a low air yards per attempt, you're keeping the ball near the line of scrimmage, similar to a Tom Brady. If you have a high air yards per attempt, it's going to be like your Jameis Winston and Josh Allen's, where you're trying to throw the ball down the field, you're trying to get your wide receivers past the safeties, and you're being very aggressive. So I'm not going to get into what I think is better for NFL teams to what they want in their quarterback, because that's obviously up to the system and up to the personnel that they have to try to make the most out of it. But we can look at, in 2019, Teddy Bridgewater had 6.2 intended air yards per attempt, which was actually kind of similar to Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees was almost around 7, but this is extremely low for the quarterbacks. And I think we can blame this on the system, not entirely though. And that's where I think a lot of people are going to get confused here, because the New Orleans Saints system was catered towards their personnel. They had Michael Thomas operating close to the line of scrimmage, and they had Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield. So with those 2 star players, that's what you're going to want to do with your quarterbacks. And it very much worked for Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Brees. And I think that Teddy Bridgewater, this is his skill set. He's going to be accurate, and he's going to be that just game manager who he's never going to win you a game, but he's never going to lose you a game. He's going to keep getting the ball to the open wide receivers around the line of scrimmage. So let's try to identify where what wide receivers on this team do that. So if we look at CMC, I mean, he was already the number 1 pick in 2020 redraft leagues, and this just cements it. Teddy Bridgewater is the perfect quarterback for Christian McCaffrey. And I mean, it just puts Christian McCaffrey in a tier of his own, because Teddy Bridgewater is that pocket passer, like we just said, is going to be looking for the running back coming out of the backfield to have small dump offs to. He's not going to be throwing the ball down the field. This fits Christian McCaffrey's skill set perfectly. And I think this is a major reason that they went out and got Teddy Bridgewater, because he fits this overall team really to a T. This is exactly what you want pairing with Christian McCaffrey. Now, let's look at their wide receiver 1. A wide receiver that's ascending in Dynasty is actually just one of the hottest assets you could acquire right now, and that is DJ Moore. Now, if we look at DJ Moore in 2019, he was the wide receiver 46 in average air yards per target, and that was at 11.1. So this is telling us that DJ Moore is also operating very close to the line of scrimmage, and that's what he's best at. We know DJ Moore kind of has that running back build. He's a shorter wide receiver, has a great frame, just very thick, and can make plays after catching the ball. And in 2019, with Kyle Allen, that's how he was able to be successful. Kyle Allen was a quarterback that was just going to keep getting the ball to his open wide receivers close to the line of scrimmage, and he could not complete a deep pass to save his life. And I heard on Evan Silva's podcast just today that he compared Teddy Bridgewater to a rich man's Kyle Allen, which I think is a perfect comparison, because I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to continue to do what Kyle Allen did and force feed DJ Moore targets across the middle of the field on crossing routes and slants, which is DJ Moore is best at. Great fit for DJ Moore. Now, a player that a lot of people are getting excited about, and I was kind of excited about him myself, especially with the addition of Joe Brady to this offense, was Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel got an insane amount of hype in the Dynasty fantasy football community going into 2019, and like we saw, he just completely flamed out. He didn't really show anything, and it was easy to blame it on the quarterback because Kyle Allen could not get the ball down the field accurately, and we see this with Curtis Samuel being the wide receiver 12 in air yards per target at 14.5 yards. Now, Teddy Bridgewater going here, in my opinion, really hurts Curtis Samuel. It really hampers my expectations for what he's going to do in 2020. And I think he goes from being a buy low to someone who I think is accurately priced. And I'm definitely not going to be going out and trying to trade for him because I don't necessarily see the upside with the Curtis Samuel that I thought maybe he would have if Cam Newton came back, or maybe they brought in a Jameis Winston, just anybody but Teddy Bridgewater. But Teddy Bridgewater, perfect quarterback for Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore. Lastly, let's talk about their ascending tight end, Ian Thomas. Extremely athletic, extremely impressive, and I'm excited about Ian Thomas. The one thing I will say is I don't really see anything that can happen over the course of the offseason to increase his dynasty value from where it's at right now. So I'm not going to be buying him right now. I'm going to be waiting until the beginning of the beginning of the season, and that's when I'm going to be going out and sending offers for Ian Thomas. But I still think that that's a tight end that you would like on your team, and I think that the Teddy Bridgewater fit is very nice for Ian Thomas. So thank you so much for watching the video, guys. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe. And if y'all like these daily videos, please make sure to go support the show on Patreon. I'm here making these videos for y'all, doing this research and trying to make us better Dynasty players. So have a great day, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know why I got cut off there. Have a great day, guys. Stay safe.